So I'm going to give y'all some legitimate thoughts and advice on how to overcome obstacles. People are going through a lot right now, and the reality is, every year something bad happens. And I have to go on social media and people say, oh, 2018 sucked. Maybe 2019 will be better. And then 2019 sucked. Maybe 2020 will be better. And then 2020 winds up being bad. And it's just kind of interesting because that logic is to a degree flawed, but also one that is a bit, it kind of shows, like if you're saying that jokingly, it's one thing, but it kind of shows the inexperience of life of some of these people. Obviously in me, I'm in my mid 30s, so I've been through a lot more than somebody who's say 18 has been through, just because of the course of time. You know what I mean? Obviously there's some situations where people who are 16, 17, 18 have been through a lot of more traumatizing things or different experiences, but in general, the older you are, the more crap you go through. And one thing I wanted to kind of talk about is like sort of overcoming obstacles. And the first thing you have to understand, and this is why I even said what I said a minute ago, this is all going to go somewhere, just trust me. Like, about 2018, 2019, 2020, I'm sure 2021 will have its own problems. And that's what I'm trying to tell you, is that bad things are going to happen. That's one thing that there's no religion, there's no political system that can stop that from happening. Like, bad things are going to happen to everybody. Obviously, there are worse things, right? Getting a cold is different than getting COVID-19, for example, or HIV or something really serious, cancer. There's, the death of a pet might not be as powerful as the death of a parent, and things like that. Losing your job is not as bad as going bankrupt. See what I'm saying? But the one thing you have to kind of, I think, in your head sort of prepare for, and this is really going to help, I assure you it will if you follow me, is if you already know, I just moved the mic, so if it sounds different, if I sound better, that's why. Mic wasn't exactly where my mouth is. If you already know that you're going to get fucked in life, it helps. If you already bracing yourself for the impact that something bad may happen to you, it's going to help. Now, that does not mean that you should have a negative mindset. That does not mean you should wake up every day in fear and anxiety. That's not what I'm telling you, and do not do that. You should try to live positive. You shouldn't get in your car and say, God, I hope I don't crash. You should instead say, God, I hope that this trip is good, and I know this trip is going to be good, and I'm going to do my best to drive the best I can if that's what you're worried about. Things like that. Always try to look at the glass as half full. And I know it's hard. Trust me, I know. It's hard. I've been pessimistic in the past about things too, but it does help. However, if you go into life every day knowing that there is the possibility of something bad happening, when something bad and unjust does happen, it does tend to soften the blow a bit. It does. It's a whole mentality. It's a whole mentality you should have. You could wake up tomorrow and trip and fall and bruise your knee, and you could sit there and spend all day wondering, why is this happening to me? Why did this happen? And blame God or blame life or blame other people. And that's not going to get you anywhere, because it happened, it's done, right? The best thing to do is just say, okay, this happened, it's bad, I'm going to try to move past it, because the only way to get through life is by getting through it. See what I'm saying? I know it sounds like a weird thing to say, but just follow me on that one. So, and I'm not saying you shouldn't complain, because we all get dealt bad cards sometimes. We all have things happen to us that are unjust. I've been dealing with a health issue now for 3 years, and I've seen 22 different doctors over it, and I'm still dealing with it. Do I sometimes wonder why this is happening to me? Yes. Do I feel like I deserve this? No. But there's other people out there who have this and who have worse pains or have different issues. It's all relative. Right now, you could be going through a breakup and not understand that somebody out there is going through a divorce. And it doesn't make you a selfish person. It's just one of those things where we tend to focus on our own problems above anybody else's. And we should be supportive of each other, but the truth is that you really don't understand the severity of the pain until it happens to you. I could sit here and describe how terrible my nerve pain is to all of you. I can sit here and tell you how much it sucks, how it's actually prevented me from uploading as much as I want to and from streaming, how it has ruined my life in many ways, because it has. It has literally done this. But you're not going to understand unless it happens to you. You won't get it. Like, you can sit there and say, damn, that's bad pain, but you're just not going to understand. I don't expect you to. On the contrary, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. And I've had a lot of enemies in my life. I do not wish this on anybody, because it really is that bad. It really is that bad, and it really is that expensive. And I'm just using my own example. I'm sure everybody out there has an example of some kind of pain. So, really, if you brace yourself that something bad could happen, and just know, like, when it does, and again, don't think about it, just know that when something bad does happen, it's like, well, that's life. And the problem is that the older you get, life is going to throw more challenges at you. Your challenges you're going to deal with when you're in your 30s are different than when you're in your 20s, as in your 40s and 50s. As you get older, your health may start to suffer a bit. You're not going to feel as good as you did 10 years ago or even 5 years ago sometimes. You got to take care of yourself. You start to think more about, like, the end goal, the retirement. Look, I didn't think about retirement investing until I hit my 30s, and that's bad. And that's why I try to push this so hard on people who are in their 20s. Dude, do not spend money on some stupid video game or something that's not going to help you. Invest when you're in your 20s, because the more compound interest you build up, the more money you can retire with, and the less you have to invest later in life. That is a fact. That is a mathematical fact. I'm doing this because I don't want you to end up like me, where you're now catching up. I had to play catch up in my early 30s, yo. I had to invest more than what I needed to invest because of how late I was in investing. See what I'm saying? And that's okay. Like, I'm glad I did it. But it's a thing that I'm trying to tell people, like, do it. But the point of that is, you don't think about these things when you're young, bro. When I was in my 20s, I didn't freaking care about, like, retiring. Same thing with, like, relationships. Like, your relationships you have in your high school years, in your 20s and in your 30s are going to be totally different. Your taste in a spouse or in a partner is going to change. That's a fact. I'm telling you that right now. The girl that you liked when you were 18 will not be the girl you like when you're 28. Now, obviously, everybody likes a certain kind of, you like big butts or whatever you're into, right? That's physical. But I mean, like, the person who you see yourself with actually in a long-term relationship is going to be different the older you get. And they may provide more challenges, a lot of give and take. But you will be wiser. And so when bad things happen to you, you have to take that as a learning experience and sit there and say, okay, this happened to me. What can I learn from it? And sometimes you can't learn anything from it. Sometimes you won't learn a thing. Or sometimes you might not realize what you learned until later on when you do a retrospective and you have a different perspective. Looking in that rearview mirror is interesting. I have had breakups happen to me in the past where I have years later realized, oh, I made that mistake. I screwed up. And it happens, usually it's not years. Usually it's a month or a few weeks. Okay, I shouldn't have done that. I'm not going to make that mistake again. Whether they come back or whether you're with somebody else. Same thing with your career. You might take a direction in your career and it's not the right direction. I mean, I can tell you a personal story. I was training in 2008 to get my Windows Server 2012. I'm sorry. I was trying to get my Windows Server 2012 certification. Wound up not getting it because I purchased a very bad book and it didn't give me the knowledge I wanted. It's a very terrible book and I wasted so much time studying it. And when I took the practice tests, I flunked them hard. I mean, I was massacred in those practice tests. And I realized that the book was printed out early before the test had even been finished yet. And I learned, okay, do not try to get a certification too early. You got to give it time. This is in IT, of course, because you got to see and make sure the books are going to be good and let some other people review them and things like that. That was a huge mistake I made. I tried to jump the gun and get that thing early, and I wound up not learning. And I had a whole, like, VMware set up at home with, like, multiple virtual servers. I knew what I was doing. But remember, and those of you who are in IT, you know what I'm about to tell you. You know I'm right about this. You might know what you're doing, but the questions on the test are either going to be unrelated to a real life scenario or they're going to be stuff that you have to learn that you might not ever even use. and they're going to be different than actual real life experience. You know what I mean? And so there's things like that in life that just, it happened. I wasted my money and my time, but at the same time, I learned from it. It's a learning experience. Boom. If I ever go back to IT, which I probably will never do, become an engineer again, I will probably, take a different approach to it. These are the things that I think you should do. And remember what I always say, short-term pain is just short-term pain. Whether it be a problem you have with a spouse or relationship, or whether it be, an issue you have at work, or something bad happens to you. Like I said earlier, you fall, you trip, you hurt your knee. It's one of those things where, hey, like, it's a problem. I'm going to be in pain for a little bit, but I'm going to make it out in the end, number one. And number two, I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to learn. And then the next time this happens, because it probably will happen again, because life has a way of kind of pushing your buttons sometimes, and that's just how it is, you'll be better equipped. And so the older you get, the wiser you get with all this experience, and the better you are. It's kind of like a video game. It's literally like a video game. You play level 1, you don't really know what you're doing. You learn tutorials and things like that. By the time you get to level 8, you already know. We've already figured the game out. You know the mechanics. That's how it is in life. That's how it is in dating. That's how it is in careers. That's how it is in success, in any kind of success. You're going to have roadblocks. So if you accept the fact that you are going to have roadblocks, if you accept the fact that you are going to have, issues come up in life, problems and obstacles, accept it. It's going to happen to you, and you will overcome. Just remember that. Trust me. I know what the hell I'm talking about. Thank you again for watching. I hope that this helped you out in a way, and we'll talk soon.